Many of you will recognize him. Father Ambrose became a monastic here in this monastery before starting his missionary journey. He comes already with a theological degree, and I found out today, and I didn't know this, that he originally studied computer science and had a master's in computer science before deciding to dedicate his life to the church. So this was kind of a major shift for him. He studied theology. He completed an advanced degree in theology, and then decided to dedicate his life to missionary work. He came here, was tonsured a monastic, and then ordained to be a hieromonk, and sent to far-off regions, including Grenada and Jamaica, and places in the Caribbean islands. I think he's been to Dominican, if I'm not incorrect.
Commonwealth of Dominica.
Yeah, the Dominican Republic. And
Commonwealth of Dominica. That always confuse the Dominican Republic and Commonwealth of Dominica. But I will visit Dominican Republic someday.
Okay. We have, but it's an interesting and complicated situation. And Father Ambrose is going to share with you some of his perspectives on missionary work in the Orthodox Church today. So please, welcome Father Ambrose.
Thank you.
In 2018, the Metropolitan of Eastern America in New York, the first hierarch of the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, Ilarion, blessed the founding of the missionary parish on Grenada. It was given the name of St. George, the patron saint of Grenada's capital. The main task of the mission is preaching to the local people, as well as providing for the spiritual needs of the local Orthodox Christians, among whom there are many from Syria, and other tourists. Apart from weekly Sunday services and feast days, the remaining time is split between evangelistic activities. This includes street preaching, visiting hospitals, the prisons, orphanages, addressing the needs of local parishioners, catechumens, giving interviews on a local radio station, and performing services from the Book of Needs. While Christianity was originally brought to the Caribbean islands by Roman Catholic missionaries and has since been widely spread, Orthodoxy is a brand new religion, even a revelation for many. Much work is needed to catechize and bring the true faith to those who are in search of it, but with God's help and your prayers and support, all things are possible.
Yes, okay.
All right, so that's a talk dedicated to Caribbean missions, and I would like to introduce also my book, which was published by the blessing of Metropolitan Hilarion. They decided that my diaries were somehow helpful, so you can see the my Grenada book from the diaries of St. George Orthodox Parish Priest in South Caribbean. But who am I? I was born in Belgorod, which is the service place of St. Yosaf of Belgorod, 1986. I spent 5 years in Soviet Union. After that, it was collapsed, and I ended up in Russian Federation. Then I did my degree in computer science, and then studied in the seminary from 2009 to 2014. After the seminary, I joined the postgraduate institute in Moscow, where I make my PhD. But before I started my studies in the seminary, which was in the birthplace of Saint Filaret Drozdov of Moscow, in Kolomna, I met Father Daniel Sisoyev on his lecture, Missionary Outreach that was my first and last encounter with Father Daniel, which encouraged me to dedicate my life serving in the foreign missions. Although the seminary was designated for the clergy of the mostly Moscow region, I always had it at my back that I would want to witness in the street or in the other churches, denominations, and probably abroad. So while the seminary was in renovating, there were some migrants from the Caucasus of Muslim confession or religion, and I encouraged my fellow seminarians to come with me to talk to them while they are in the process of building for the seminary. In the summertime, I would go, of course, and preach in this street sometime with the graduates of Father Daniel's missionary school for lay people, which was in Moscow. At that time, Father Daniel was martyred in 2009. So after I graduated from seminary, I journeyed to the distant regions in Tuva Republic in Russia, which is Buddhist mostly. And also I spent time in Poland at the Roman Catholic World Youth Day, and eventually 3 months in Thailand in the only Orthodox monastery. And I was thinking, how is it possible to combine the monastic calling that I had and the missionary calling that I had? Now, you see the fulfillment. As I was tonsured in the Holy Trinity Monastery in Jordanville here in 2019, after I graduated from the in-person course of the Postgraduate Institute, I went to pray in the monastery and stayed there, finishing my degree, where I spent 1 year because we had little classes. And when I realized there is a need in the missionaries to the Philippines, I contacted Father George Maximov, who was then in charge of the Filipino mission, and I asked him. At that time, he was the spiritual advisor of the movement of Holy Prophet Daniel, which was founded by Father Daniel, and which I was part of. I asked him, Father George, would you want me to go in the Philippines, or if no, I will just get tonsured in this nice skit away from crowds of people, which I liked. And he answered me, there is currently lost contact with the tribe, with indigenous people in the mountains, but you could try in the Caribbean, because previously he had a trip with his companion to the Caribbean islands, and he advised me to go to the island of Dominica. But right before I was about to travel there, a terrible hurricane happened, Maria. So Father George suggested if I don't like going there, I could go to Grenada or Trinidad and Tobago. So I just decided to go by his initial blessing. And as you see on the map, the destination that I was sent, or I went as my academic year, is the Lesser Antilles Islands. The Caribbean is divided into Greater Antilles and Lesser Antilles. The Greater Antilles include Cuba, which is the Rome of the Caribbean, I would so to say, Jamaica, Haiti. And the Lesser Antilles is all those previously colonized countries which gained their independence just last century. And Commonwealth of Dominica was part of the British Commonwealth, which is still there, but they have their president and you could travel there. So what struck me when I arrived is I never saw so many black people and the different mentality. They were so friendly. It's like a village, and they would call me and say hi, and just after that say okay, bye, and like no conversation, distracted me from my prayer for nothing as I go on the street. So I had to seek for spiritual advice. What should I do? And Father George answered me, you reply hi and asking, because at that time I didn't realize there is a culture of a small talk, which is a kind of a cultural barrier for me, used to be. So now I'm accustomed, and whenever you tell me hi, I would say hi. And then if you ask me how are you, I would say I'm all right, thank God. And I would answer you back, and how are you? And if you say I'm okay, I would say praise the Lord, and then that would be it. So I was preaching there for 9 months, and to whomever I preached, nobody converted. However, old fisherman met me in the street, and he invited me to his house and talked, and after a short conversation he said that he wants to become a follower. Later on, Father George came. At that time I was just a reader, as some of you, seminary graded. I spent 5 years as a reader. So after he learned from me that we have these people who wanted to convert, he came and joined them, married them, and they decided they're going to donate a place for church. Although they are financially kind of deprived, because it's a poor country, one of the poorest countries. So on the picture you see the view from the church to be in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It's a nice place, lots of fruit, always summer, 6 p.m. sunset, 6 a.m. sunrise. Mostly Christian population. Nobody works on Sundays. You cannot get food because the stores are closed. So next, what happened is a missionary came and he built this nice cross, which was subsequently blessed and published online. After it was published online, some people who lived in Dominica, they find a way to contact me. I realized there were some Orthodox already on the island, and I couldn't find them. I was traveling in all constituencies, trying to find people, and they just found me through the information about the cross being consecrated. There was a family of Ukrainian from Russian-speaking part, and a local lady whose sons were converted in U.S., and she was about to get baptized. After that, she got baptized, and now you see this is our recent celebration of the Feast of the Protection Veil of the Mother of God. This is the name that Metropolitan Hilarion gave to our parish. And in the picture you see here, I stand separate because that was a COVID time, and just before the liturgy, I was diagnosed with COVID. So we had to serve Typica. Thankfully, I got the spare gifts, I guess. So everybody got communion or, yeah. So, but they accepted it that they already had COVID before. So, but I just was not knowing what to do. So I tried to keep myself far from them still. After 9 months, I got a letter from professor of the St. George's University in Grenada, who responded to Father George mission and invited me to come to Grenada because there are a number of people, Orthodox from the Middle East background, who needed to be organized. And it's thanks to them at that time I was ordained, because they signed petition for my ordination. And I wasn't feeling worthy, so I talked to Metropolitan Hilarion just to rule out myself. If he agrees, then I could just find someone else. But he said we cannot find anybody, so he ordained me as a priest for Grenada. And now we have this parish, which is a rented apartment in St. George's in the capital. So I don't abandon Commonwealth or Dominica. I do regularly come back. But this became my main base where I was sent. And you see we have a veranda with the kitchen. The one room became a sanctuary, and the main hall became the prayer place. And it also had a room where I sleep, and there is the office. Veranda is particularly good. As you see in the picture, there is they asked me to do the Russian-speaking club, so we learned the Russian letters. And also, it's has lots of rivers to be baptized, and there are altogether 12 baptisms. No, more than that, 14, 15 baptisms that took place overall, both in Grenada and Commonwealth of Dominica, Trinidad and Tobago. So we also do the outreach in the preaching in the streets, having the Sunday school for kids, and welcoming other denominations to visit and get anointed from the icon of the Mother of God of Hawaii with the Blessed Chrism. Also, you see there was a high-profile visit from the Russian government representative as a sign of recognition. And we also had seminarians visit this year who went to the orphanage, hospitals, prison, and on the Roman Catholic radio and TV show. And I'm looking for more seminarians to come to practice their missionary skills, which will help you as future priests, right? One of my first baptized converts were from the Trinidad and Tobago. And you see the family got baptized. She invited me to come and perform a funeral service for one of the shot or Syrians, because Trinidad and Tobago is a high criminal country, and I found there are plenty more Syrians in the Trinidad and Tobago, but it's just they found a home in Roman Catholicism, or they just prayed home. So this is a potential for the mission. There are also Metropolitan Ignatius of Mexico and Bishop Elias of Venezuela or from the Antiochian Patriarchate who sometimes come and serve in Trinidad and Tobago, and we did celebration together. But for me, the most success I get with local people, and you see there are young men, the one who was baptized last year, another one this year, and the one is upcoming, and there are two more inquirers. They look up for Eastern Orthodoxy online, Facebook, and they contact me in WhatsApp and send me questions, and that is how they eventually come to getting ready to be baptized and become the parishioners. Also, I did the baptism for the Muslim ladies who cannot be converted legally in Middle East, and I did marriage for them. So I make them renounce Islam and the prophet, the false prophet. So this is a good place for these things, because it's it's a kind of a Christian country, mostly Protestant, half Roman Catholic, and legally, when I apply for my work permit as a priest, I have to prove to the government that I am doing some work to find a substitute for that position. So I accept it as an encouragement for the outreach, because to find a substitute from among locals, it means they have to be educated and taught, but before then they have to be baptized, of course, and converted. So, which is very inspiring to me. I do also visit Jamaica, as Father mentioned, and other islands. Here you see a photo from one of the parishes. There are two, northern and southern parish, and on your right you see Brother Moses, who we pray to become a priest soon, by the blessing of God. I'm one of the priests who participate in the rotation. There are a couple of other priests who do visits to that island to keep up liturgical life. I was in Antigua and witnessed by the providence of God the laying of the foundational stone for the church building with Metropolitan Ignatius of Mexico. And I was invited to serve in Venezuela, in Caracas. So somebody joke, I'm not Hieromonk, but Hieromonk, because I fly often. And coming back to what I started with, this is all thanks to the Orthodox missionary movement of the Holy Prophet Daniel, which I got all inspiration, and I pray that thanks to this movement we can make America great again, and by making the Eastern Orthodoxy missionaries part of that number of missionaries that America sends worldwide. And I pray to have the training set up for the missionaries system with the debate club, the staging as a training, then the street mission, and then mission abroad, following what I experienced in my life. And part of that was also writing diaries and sharing it with your mentor, without whom that couldn't happen, because you're alone. And Jesus Christ was sending by two, but nowadays You can walk with another person in your ear, talking to you literally. Well, nobody does it. I don't do that, but it's possible to be guided online, and we have to think how we can employ that technology. So email me for bylaws, and visit GrenadaOrthodox.org, which is a visiting card for our mission and a place where you can see how to donate.
Thank you. Will you take some questions?
Of course, that's why we have
All right.
1 hour and
Any
half.
brave souls with questions?
Father, what are some of the challenges you're facing right now in this state of the mission?
Oh, right. That's a good question, because my whole purpose here is that I realize that traveling is good, flying, visiting countries and serving is a blessing. But when you open the church, it's better not to open at all rather than to open and keep the doors closed. And this is what happened in Grenada. When I came back after my trip, I got a vacation to travel to Mount Athos and Russian monastery where I did confession before getting visa to come here. And there were no parishioners in the service. So somebody relocated, somebody had challenges, another one disappeared. The students who were waiting for me were not longer waiting. So I need a person who would permanently, like me, who was like as a reader, preparing for the priest visit, the place and everybody around, to be physically present at the parish, and potentially on every island we need a lay person to be present and doing this necessary ground level work to making the layman services, doing the Bible studies at homes, visiting denominations, making connections, with probably organizing some disputes, doing visits to the hospitals and everywhere in the prison or orphanages, so that when the time comes for a priest visit, we would have a list like these people need a house blessing, this one need a physical blessing, this one need baptism, this one need this. That way, the parishes can continue their existence, and when they become more mature, they might get someone who would become a priest for them. Who knows? So at that level, the work of a priest is not enough. And I don't need, well, of course I would welcome another priest, but it can be a lay person. Well, we can make I don't mind having even a lay woman, but bishop would say don't do that. But a lay person who can read, who is passionate about like Orthodoxy and like everybody of you are, and I know most American converts are too. That's why I like American Orthodoxy, because the idea of evangelism is intrinsic, right, to most who have converted and want to share the blessing with the neighbor.
Father, I know you have a pretty nice environment down there in Grenada. Just curious if somebody of my age wanted to come and visit, do they have a fairly good medical infrastructure and, like that? Is it pretty stable government? What's that like?
Father, you're welcome to visit, but bring your own medications. But it's very good for you to sometimes soak in the sea, in the ocean, and enjoy the fruit. However, since it's quite poor country, although there is a medical university from American background, but it's still poor quality of the medical service there. But everything else is perfect, and probably
Yeah, it's a nice environment, isn't it?
yeah, and we could have potentially some retreat place for maybe a representation parish of our Holy Trinity Monastery, where the monks could do their obediences at the same time, have some sort of a retreat. Why not? And the place for missionary training as well.
One other question, do we have to donate online, or can we donate now?
Where's your hat, Father? I can pass it to the rose.
I can pass the stupid.
Yes. But who wants? Yeah, you could use Father hat to donate, and there is a donate button on this website, GrenadaOrthodox.org.
I know you're trying to gather some books to take back and to take overseas.
Yeah, that's true. We need somebody is ordering books, and we do need the English-speaking books. Our brother was first.
Morgan, and then Father Michael.
My understanding is that you, being a priest, need to visit the different islands, and so you can't be the one to stay at the parish in Grenada. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So how many parishes are you in charge of?
Current-
How many parishes? Maybe not in charge, but how many parishes do you serve of? How many different islands?
Now it became for the Commonwealth of Dominica, which was original island, with their converts. Then Grenada, where I was ordained and for which I was ordained and sent. Then Trinidad and Tobago, which is the biggest Caribbean island country, with no Orthodox parish. But thank God, this year it was just registered legally, and we are in the process of getting me a work permit and all other stuff like bank account to get the donations and collection for the church. After that, I also had Father Kirill from Taiwan, who helped and came while I was not able to visit Dominica. He came and helped with the liturgical life there for a couple of weeks. But that came with a cost, because he asked me in return to go and visit another Caribbean island of Belize, which is the only English-speaking country in the Central America. You cannot see it on the map, but it's part of. It's close to Guatemala, and it's English-speaking. I cannot speak Spanish. I do some French, so for me it's comfortable visiting English-speaking country, which I'm going, please God, this next January. And who knows, the rest of the islands will want my visit again. So for now, it's I'm the rector of the 3 independent countries, which are just most of which are just villages of 150,000 people.
My second question is, what brings you here to Jordanville?
I'm part of the brethren. I was ordained, and I was, tonsured in Jordanville, and as a monk, I need time for my retreat because living in the world is it could be a challenging, or you can make it For example, people make decisions based on their connections or relationships. As a monk, for me, relationships is something which is bad. And but I have to go and visit and do Bible studies in people's houses. So that makes me feel I'm not enough monk. I need to enroll in the monastery once again. So this time was a blessing to stay. I feel very blessed this month. And I got empowered with the prayers and the prayer life. So I could go and continue. But I will be back definitely.
Good.
As part of
Good.
their father.
Yeah, you were mentioning about the one English-speaking country. That was going to be my question. In all these places you serve, what language are you serving in?
That's English, and if it is depending on who comes. If it is the Arabic-speaking people, I did some Arabic course, so I could provide some. Oh, thank you.
I don't know whose school that is. But
Okay, I will return it after.
Just leave it on the podium, maybe it'll gather more.
Oh yes.
The evening of-
It was a joke, but it turned not to be a joke. And then Slavonic, if there are some Russian-speaking, Slavonic-speaking people, that's the languages I use. So,
But there, in other words, there are no service books or anything available in any of the indigenous languages that these people speak?
there are mostly French, Spanish, apart from English, some a little bit Dutch, Papiamento in Aruba, Curacao, and I guess that's it.
So between Grenada and Dominica, the people are what, primarily Spanish speakers?
So it comes like this. The southern countries, South America is a Spanish, well, Venezuela, and also Cuba, Dominican Republic, Spanish-speaking Puerto Rico. Because of the history of the colonization, the French and the English were fighting for those islands. They come sporadically. English islands, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia. St. Lucia has also a number of people who speak French patois. Then comes Martinique, which is part of the metropolitan of France. Then comes Commonwealth of Dominica, which mostly English, but it also have French-speaking. And by the way, Dominica has the population of the Carib, the indigenous people, but they all speak English. But although because they forgot their own language. Then comes Guadeloupe, which is again a French-speaking country. Then Saint Martin, which is half French, half English, half Dutch. And then Antigua and Barbuda is again English-speaking country.
Did you mention Arabic a minute ago?
The Arabic is the language of the majority of the Orthodox in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. So to minister to this area, somebody would have to speak English, Spanish, French, Dutch, and Arabic?
Well, it depends on what islands you pick.
Okay.
Those islands are also influenced by the airlines and geography, because to travel from Grenada to, say, Jamaica through the local airlines is more expensive than to travel from Grenada to Miami and from Miami to Jamaica. Or from, yes, because that's why for me being able to come here is also a way to facilitate the travels, because it's helpful as a transit center.
Do they ever take boats from island to island? Is it less expensive?
And that's paradoxically, the boats could have been less expensive, but because of, to my understanding, the colonial past, there is not yet the taste of the independence for those islands, though they Maybe we can make a Orthodox boat, which could also carry the passengers. So if we can invest in that, that will make a good business. Huh? Because we don't have a boat between Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago, so it has to be some person who would figure out the requirements for passenger boat, because the Grenadians would just jump on a cargo boat, but then the Trinidad forbid passengers on the cargo boats. Or rather, water airplane, because I feel seasick, and for me, like, boat travel is a challenge. So I would prefer water airplane, which would just jump over the islands, and we could do services on each island. I think, let me see if it is enough to buy. Okay,
Were you returning from here to these islands, or did I understand that you might be going to Venezuela?
The next itinerary for me is service in the Trinidad and Tobago, potentially Tobago, if there are standby tickets to visit them for the Boxing Day. And then 31st December is service in Trinidad. Then I'm going back to Grenada because Bishop Elias is going to visit from Venezuela, and we organizing for him a service with an appeal for the Syrian community to come back. And then I'm traveling to the country of Belize for 2 weeks, and I'm coming back to Trinidad because I'm doing like once a month service in Trinidad or once in 2 months, which is a huge amount of money to travel. And then I have a friend, missionary, who, well, he's not a missionary. He just recently, thanks God, I found that he could come and stay for 1 year in, at least to help with the services. So, and I will have to welcome him and show him around in February. So this is an interesting schedule, isn't it?
Where were you born? You were born in Russia?
You know, Saint Yosaf of Belgorod.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he serve? Yeah, that's where I was born.
I'm sorry, I came a little bit late. I don't know if I missed.
Oh yes.
When you were. So, how did you end up doing missionary work in this part of the world?
Oh yes.
It seems like you were living there when you were a reader already.
Yeah, I left in 2017 as a reader to through the missionary movement of Prophet Daniel. So they, Father Daniel used to have a rule that whoever wants to go on a mission, he would provide a one-way ticket. I think that's a good rule, isn't it? So that was my initial support. Then also it's Father George Maximov, who is the spiritual advisor of the movement, and then there was another lady.
Who are this Father David?
Daniel Sosoev, yes. That's the
And Father George that you're referencing. What bishop are they under?
Okay, so the Father George now is the head of the missionary department of the African Exarchate under Moscow Patriarchate, which is under Bishop Constantine, who was my rector in the seminary. He's now appointed as the Exarch of Africa, former MP. And Father Daniel, he was martyred in 2009. He was under Patriarch Kirill.
So how did you end up under the Russian Church abroad?
Right. So when I came and found there are a community in Grenada, it's enough. Lots of people, all them signed the petition, and there was a need for a priest. And Father George, who was my mentor, he was. 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 He preparing me to become a priest and switch to Metropolitan Hilarian's jurisdiction, because Metropolitan Hilarion has been known for someone who supports missions abroad in India, and the moment has come that has to be. So we discussed with the community which bishop we were going to choose, and because I was from the Russian Orthodox Church, and the communication with New York is easier. And in fact, the ticket to go to Grenada is just 200, sometimes less than that bucks. And the flight is 5 hours, so it's sometimes less than to travel to Synod.
Okay.
So that's why we made it as our diocesan center.
I see.
And we don't regret.
Is there one place that you would consider the main center of the mission? Would that be Grenada in this case?
I was ordained for Grenada, and but the Grenada is quite a small country, and there is more demand in Trinidad and Tobago. So for now, it's in Grenada, but traveling-wise, Trinidad is more of a hub, but still, the idea of my services was not to plant mission where there was already planted. For example, if there is a mission in, say, St. Lucia under the Antiochian Patriarchate, we don't want to double the effort. Instead, we would like to support the parishes, each other. So, for example, the Russians could come to and take communion there, and the Syrians could come and take communion in a Russian church. The same thing for Guadeloupe and other countries, because that would scatter the attention, right? It makes sense to focus on somewhere where you are really needed, because the demand encouraging, even if there is not enough resources, but there is some like young convert who is anxious and consistent in learning Orthodoxy, then we would definitely make it happen for him to receive the baptism, although it might be challenging with his liturgical life subsequently, but at least it could provide once a year. So on the Fund for Assistance, there will be also a link to date for these travels, because although I work as a computer engineer to be able to pay for the rent and food and maybe a ticket, but with the growing of the mission, we need to expand. So that's still a Grenada. Is
Did I
the
just understand you said you work as a computer engineer?
yes.
And that's how you earn some revenue to support yourself?
Yeah, thanks to my previous education. Although somebody would tell me like you should do the more like fundraising and prepare the size videos, but initially I got a blessing to more of a self-financial support, and I'm talking to Bishop Luke just today. We just decided to go through Fund for Assistance, and because I cannot fundraise, I need to learn how to do it. But so I just work as what I can do with my hands, right? The commandment is to work with your hands. It's like the handicraft for monastic handicraft. which I dedicate like 4 hours a day normally. And then there is another half of the day which I could do the rest of the things.